Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 235, the What Do We Do Now edition. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's June 2016.
As I alluded to, the question for the day is, what do we do now? And this program is largely in response to the atrocities, the terrorist attack in Orlando, Florida. For those who don't know, we broadcast bilocationally. I record George's Skype feed coming from Florida. He's pretty close to Orlando. I'm here in Milford, Connecticut. That's the beach. So we have different perspectives when big events arise because people around the world, the earth, react differently. Here in the Northeast, when there's an event like Sandy Hook or a terrorist attack, 9/11, Orlando, it's interesting to watch how people react about what their role is in this, what their role isn't in this, and who to blame. And, that's really not what the Christian reaction is about. It's not looking for who to blame. It's about ministering to the victims. It's about ministering to the community and to those who are going, what does this all mean? And that's where we step in. Well, you want to find meaning in this? I can help you. And so we're going to go, and George is going to talk a lot about this because it's his community. It's Orlando, it's Florida, it's people of a different age, it's a lot of illegal aliens, it's people from Puerto Rico, it's Latinos, you don't really have a large LGBT community down there, but this was a target of this terrorist. And so George and I are going to sit here and talk about the Christian response. Because a lot of people think the Christian response is to find inanimate objects or find some type of blame game in this, and that's not how we roll in Christendom. So George, just let's start and talk a little bit about. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know what happened, but let's give a brief synopsis of what happened last Sunday morning.
2 a.m. at a man named Mohammed Atin, an American born in the United States of African parentage, entered a Pulse, a nightclub catering to a gay clientele, and began to shoot. 49 people were killed and over 50 wounded, and Atin was killed in a shootout with the police. And it was the worst shooting in the United States since, I think, Wounded Knee.
No, I mean, seriously, Wounded Knee, you can talk about Waco. But it's interesting to see the reaction, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're agnostic, atheist, or Northeastern liberal. It's really amazing to watch people try to understand what happened.
What is really fascinating is that I'm about 100 miles from the shooting scene. And I'm not in the Orlando media market. I'm actually in the Tampa or Gainesville media market. So I have a second-hand media perspective from not being in Orlando. After the shooting, we happened to have a diocesan board meeting this week, and I'm the dean of the northwest part of our diocese. And I went down and I talked to a number of clergy from the Orlando area. And in Orlando itself, the perspective is very different from me in the hinterlands. In Orlando itself, clergy, male and female Episcopal priests and deacons, are being stopped in the street and asked for spontaneous prayer. People are standing in line to buy gas at the 7-Eleven, and the person back them and asks, "Are you a minister? Are you a priest?" And they're taken to one side and say, "I had a friend," or was killed. And the church is ministering to the wider community. I have been extraordinarily proud of our Bishop, Gregory Brewer. Bishop Brewer has been very involved. Bishop Brewer was actually on the day of the shooting in Kentucky. He is a depot bishop. He's asked by a number of liberal dioceses to exercise delegated episcopal pastoral oversight for conservative congregations. Sure, he was out of town when the shooting occurred and got back about 6 o'clock that night. But he has been running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week since that point. Mm-hmm. And there was an ecumenical service at Northland Church, which is one of these mega churches, 10,000 seats, 10,000 people. And the Episcopal Church, the Catholic Church, and the Independent Baptists, and all this and that gathered, and their ministers, 60 clergy from the different denominations gathered on the they have a dais, a raised platform, and all laid hands on a leader of the local gay and lesbian community. So this in the local area is viewed as an attack on all of us. A particular demographic was targeted, gays. But this was an attack on all of us, and that's the perspective in the local area. It's, as was shared, I have at the meeting were some Latino clergy, and their point is the majority of victims were Latinos. In fact, proportionally more were Latinos than were gays. Many of these people were illegal aliens. So different communities locally were affected. Today, Bishop Brewer's doing a funeral for one of the victims at the cathedral. And Bishop Brewer tweeted earlier this day that the Orlando sheriff has said that they're going to have 60 police surround the cathedral just to make sure nothing bad happens. The church has been extraordinarily active in responding with other churches. And that's the local response. And then as you go wider and wider out, I'm thinking, what planet are these people on?
Yeah, because the response up here in the Northeast it's much different. They're looking for somebody to blame. And if you watch CNN with Anderson Cooper, Fox News with Greta, we got to find something to blame here. Something caused this. There's a causation. And so, they'll blame the guns, they'll blame the Christians for setting up an atmosphere of hate. And I watch the struggle for a people who spent at least the last 12 or 15 years taking away identity of anything. We now live in a society where a boy can call himself a girl, and people will say, yeah, you're a girl. And the self-identity thing, in a point where you find this type of tragedy, has no use. There's no use in self-identity in this type of situation. And like you found, people close to the epicenter are seeking, where's God in this?
Some of the stuff that hasn't made it into the national news is sort of known in the local news. When the shooting took place, Orlando Regional, ORMC, the Orlando Regional Medical Center, is the trauma center for Orlando. The majority of the victims were taken to that hospital. There was only one clergy person on duty at the time. And because of the shooting, it was on lockdown. Nobody could go in, nobody could go out. And so the only chaplain on duty was a woman named Nancy Oliver, a deacon at the cathedral, Episcopal Cathedral in Orlando. For the first 24 hours, the families of the victims were not told, unless their child or friend or brother or sister had a cell phone and could call and tell them they were okay. People did not know the status because it was locked down. You just couldn't go to the hospital and visit. You just couldn't walk if you were a minister or if you were a chaplain or if you wanted to help. You just couldn't go to the hospital. A family were kept away, and so Nancy Oliver, who happened to be there, and she did a remarkable job. And the story she tells of, where is God? Did God cause this? Why is there evil in this world? For the families, for those suffering, this nonsense that, is being spouted uh, from the Archbishop of Canterbury to Anderson Cooper is irrelevant. Because the question they're asking is, why is there evil in this world? What is the nature of evil? Why does evil exist? Why do bad things happen?
And can you pray for me? And,
Yes.
it is amazing. And I'm so, honored that the people at the epicenter aren't looking for the correlation and causation that the rest of the world is. They're seeking God in this.
Now we're getting nut jobs from Fred Phelps and the Westboro Baptist Church God Hates Fags group. They're going to protest and picket because the Episcopal bishop is going to bury one of the victims at the cathedral. Fred Phelps is going to picket tonight, and the clergy, the diocese, are going to gather tomorrow at 6 for a service, then march and join other churches in one of the local parks for an ecumenical service. And they're going to be protesters from Fred Phelps all the way over to gay activists, the Code Pink crowd. I don't know of Code Pink in particular. That's a particular group. But our bishop, Greg Brewer, is being vilified by gay activists in the Episcopal Church who blame him for creating an atmosphere of hostility that allowed this to take place. So Greg Brewer, one of the few shining stars in the House of Bishops of the Episcopal Church, he is a perpetrator. Kevin, you are one of the perpetrators. You are responsible. I'm responsible because we don't agree with the liberal agenda. Therefore, we created the atmosphere, and therefore we're guilty. It's loot. I mean, this is a silly thing to say on one level, but I sort of feel like a Jew in Europe who's being told that you're, in the Nazi era, you're either a communist or you're a rapacious capitalist, and you're responsible for all the ills in this world. I mean, this sickness is almost on par with anti-Semitism that we're seeing being spouted.
Yeah, it is interesting. We're to a point now it's guilty by association. Christianity does not support, endorse the gay lifestyle. It is what it is. And therefore, when there's evil against the gay lifestyle, those who do not support it are obviously complicit in the actions. And, everybody knows guilty by association is a fallacy. Plato, Aristotle, sat there and said, guilty by association? Nah, it doesn't work. And we're to that point. But what is our role in this? Our role is to show where Christ is in this. It's to minister to people. It's to pray for people. It's to hand them tissues. It's not to find the greater theological relevance and explain it to them. It's to be there for them. And it's very difficult because a lot of people want to sit there and try to have an explanation. Sometimes we just can't explain these things, and I've seen that more times than not with people trying to explain evil to me. Oh, really?
Well, let me be petty on one level. Let me be petty. I enjoy
George.
being petty, Kevin.
Yeah, okay.
One of the things that bothered me was this statement put out by the Archbishops of Canterbury, New York, about a day after the shooting, that was really quite offensive from Orlando Wise. In other words, it in essence seemed to say that unless you're a supporter of the gay movement and the gay cause, you have no right to mourn. In other words, they just were offensive. And at our meeting, at diocesan board meeting, Bishop Brewer says, I received a handwritten note from Justin Welby saying making all the right pastoral words and this and that. And then it hit me. I'm being unkind to Justin Welby, because Justin Welby's statement was not a statement to the people of Orlando.
No, it was for the press of the
It was
UK.
for the UK press.
Yeah.
He's basically coming up with something to get some of the crazies off his back there. And so the unkind thoughts that I had about Justin Welby were basically false, because what he wrote to the Bishop of Orlando what Josiah Adaiwu Farone wrote to the Bishop of Orlando, what African bishops and Asian bishops and people from around the world wrote to the Bishop of Orlando in Orlando were appropriate. And then I look at their public statements and I'm thinking, man, why are you so afraid of one particular pressure group?
Yeah.
That you have to make these noises that don't represent what you may think. I mean, unless they're lying to Greg Brewer and they're truthful in their public statement, or you know where I'm going.
I think people have lost the desire or ability to defend Christ. And if you look at the first century church, they were defenders of Christ. And we're called on today, as well as it was in the first century, and God will give you the words to speak. It just, that's something that the mission of the church should be, is to help their laity and clergy to be defenders of Christ in this. Yeah.
But Kevin, it's hard, and
it is, absolutely.
I am guilty myself of wanting to go along and get along in many ways. And so for me to be self-righteous about Justin Welby it's inappropriate. I wish he would have done things differently, but any moral censure I might have of him, I think, is wrong.
In this instance.
In this instance. Now, we're not talking about other stuff.
No.
I guess my point is that when the shooting occurred, I was in the middle of my Sunday thing, and I had already preached twice, and I had 2 more sermons to go, and I learned about it halfway through the day, so I dropped my sermon on justification by faith, which kept the 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock congregation enthralled.
Oh, yes.
And moved to theodicy. Why does God allow evil into this world?
Yeah.
For the remaining 2 services. And that's an issue I'm going to return to this weekend, because it's for us local yokels here down in the hills and the sticks and the swamps and the bayous of Florida. The question for us is not whether we should regulate AR-15s or gun control or things of that nature, which in Florida it's a little too late. I think we have the most registered. I think we're number 1 in the country in gun ownership or something, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, they don't include the Colson family in the.
They haven't been to the basement of the Colsons, no. But still,
it's nobody cares about gun control, about this or that. They care about why does evil exist.
So as we close out the program, we ask our viewers to take a moment to reflect and to pray about this. Pray for the victims. Pray where God will use you in this and in all circumstances of daily life. As Christians, we need to be defenders of the faith, defenders of Christ, and also be the ear to what the world is saying. We do need to listen and be compassionate and carry a Kleenex box. That's what we're called to do.
And how can God be glorified from this incident? How? That is what we're called to find.
Yeah.
Where is God's glory? How can we... Now, Fred Phelps knows the answer. Fred Phelps knows the answer is that this is God's punishment for the sins of America, and this is a sign that the end times are near. I don't agree with that, but I do agree that evil exists, and we have our responsibility as Christians to be faithful and to love the Lord and to praise Him in all circumstances.
I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And you've been watching episode, I have to look it up, 235 of Anglican Unscripted.